Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Hard Count podcast, and not just any Hard Count podcast. As you can tell, we got the face cam. It's an hour long. What's going on? Well, I thought we could do this type of podcast once or twice a week where I come up with some intriguing topics from the week before of NFL football and just sit here and talk about them in multiple segments. So if you're only interested in maybe one segment, like you only want to hear me talk about Jalen Hurts, then I will have the timestamps in the description. I will also be uploading separate videos. So yeah, if you are interested in that, just go find those segments elsewhere. But I welcome you for the whole podcast. Just sit back, relax, whatever you're doing. I'm here to talk for an hour. So let's get right into it with my first topic. And I wanted to start off with Justin Herbert. I wanted to start off talking about the Thursday night game. Chargers versus Raiders. It was a very good game. Went to overtime, and the Chargers ultimately pulled it out. So I just wanted to appreciate what Justin Herbert's done this year. He's been absolutely fantastic. He's proved me wrong. He's proved a lot of people wrong. I thought the Chargers should start Tyrod Taylor going into the year. Obviously, looking back on it, it looks stupid. And I think what I've kind of learned, one of the things I've learned is, why should the Chargers have started Tyrod Taylor? I was all about, they should start Tyrod Taylor. But what were the Chargers going to gain out of that? They were going to gain, maybe 9-7, 10-6 in the AFC. You're not beating Patrick Mahomes. You're not going to beat Lamar Jackson. So I think the best thing for them to do was throw in Justin Herbert. And originally they did start Tyrod Taylor, but we've seen what's happened since they've put in Justin Herbert. Test the rookie guy out with a lot of talent out of the draft. He's proved so many people wrong. He's done all of those things that, we said he couldn't do. Can he not get stuck on his first read? Can he have consistent accuracy? Can he do this? Can he do this? Because we know he had the talent, but could he do it? He's done all of those things and more than that. He's been fantastic for the Chargers this year. Made some throws that almost nobody else in the NFL could make. So I just wanted to real quick say how impressed I have been with Justin Herbert. He's been fantastic. And just something I've learned from that is I think as in the NFL as a whole needs to not be afraid to chase ability, chase talent, chase the raw prospect, the raw talent in the draft, rather than, maybe shying away from that guy and taking the guy that's a little more polished. I think that's one thing that I've really taken away from this whole Justin Herbert thing. And because ability, it can't be taught. I mean, some of the little polished things, some of the little, decision-making, those little things can be taught. Development is as good as ever in the NFL. And let's just take a look at the past 4 draft classes for some reference. And I thought this was really, really interesting. 2017, obviously the 3 main guys. Mitch Trubisky was taken first, Patrick Mahomes taken second, and Deshaun Watson taken third. Those were the 3 quarterbacks taken in that draft. And what do you know? I mean, Mahomes, the most freaky guy in the class. Everyone was like, oh, he's got the most upside, but he's a little risky. Can he do it at the NFL level? So people were a little hesitant to take him. And I would say it's worked out pretty well for the Chiefs. Deshaun Watson, second best athlete in the draft. People said he was a little more pro-ready than a guy like Patrick Mahomes. And he's been fantastic. He's shown his ability. He's been a great athlete in the NFL, and that's really translated super well. And then we all know what happened. Mitch Trubisky, the guy that was taken first, the more pro-ready guy, the more safe prospect. I mean, look at him. What he's doing right now. He's holding the Chicago Bears back. They've tried to replace him with Nick Foles. They can't find anything. And then you got Patrick Mahomes signed to a $500 million contract, and Deshaun Watson signed to 4 years and a ton of money. They're both franchise quarterbacks. Mitch Trubisky is not. So the safer prospect was the one that failed. 2018, 5 first-round picks. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, and Lamar Jackson. Those are the 5 guys. Those are the top 5 quarterbacks in the class. And I think we can all agree here. The best 2 are undoubtedly Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. You can say whoever is better. But what do we notice? The 2 guys, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, were the 2 that weren't refined enough. The 2 that weren't pro-ready quarterbacks. It would take some development, but they've developed, and now they are the 2 best quarterbacks in the class. They've developed the things that people said, oh, I don't know if they can do that. I don't know if they can do that. But they've done them. 2019, Kyler Murray, and this was the freakiest guy in the class. He was taken first overall, and guess what? It worked out. He's a top 8 quarterback in the NFL right now. He's had a great season. You know, he had some ups and downs, but Kyler is fantastic. He is one of the most talented players in the league right now, and the sky is the limit for him. The Cardinals have their franchise guy with Kyler Murray, so they were right to take him first in the draft. And then 2020, Justin Herbert, the guy deemed a little more risky, too risky. He has the bust potential, but, you know, he's talented, right? But I'm a little scared to take Justin Herbert, is what a lot of people were saying. He's going to be a bust, but he had the high upside, and the things that people said that he couldn't do in college, he's done. So we just looked back. Mahomes, the freakiest guy in the class, the best guy in the class. The 2 freakiest guys in the second class, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, the arm strength, the mobility, the things that make him special. Those are the 2 best in the class. Third, Kyler Murray, the guy that's freakishly athletic. You've seen nobody like him ever before. He's the best in the class. And then Justin Herbert. I mean, some people will say Joe Burrow, who was just remarkable, but Justin Herbert, the guy who's the freaky guy, the guy with the rocket arm, the guy who can make throws nobody else can make, the best in the class in my opinion. So I think what we're taking away from this, my point in all of this, is the guys who are deemed too risky are the ones that are winning you Super Bowls. They're the guys that are the franchise quarterbacks, and safe prospects in the NFL in this day and age don't win you Super Bowls like that. You know, I mean, obviously you get a special guy that is safe just because you know he's like so freakishly athletic, he's so accurate. But the raw prospect, the guy that has the talent, has the, unique ability to sling a ball 70 yards downfield and hit throws that no one else can hit, or the guy who can outrun everyone on the field, those are the guys that are going to be successful in the NFL. The quarterback position is not the same as it was 10 years ago when you could take a Drew Brees, the safe guy, or, who's been remarkably accurate and has had a fantastic career. The quarterback position is all about being able to play out of the system, making plays that aren't there, and the guys that are special, the talented guys, the raw prospects, are the guys that can do that already. You know, as I talked about, development is as good as it's ever been in the NFL. And, as I said, you can't teach a rocket arm. You can't teach the ability to outrun everyone on the field and juke out everybody. You can teach some better decision making. Those things can be taught. You can refine the form of people. We've seen Allen go through that change. There's so much new technology, so much better coaching. And so those things can be taught, but ability cannot. So I think my point, again, in all of this is I think the NFL needs to stop shying away from the raw prospect who, another guy might be a little more pro-ready. He might be a little more accurate. He might have some of the better processing. But when you got a guy that has a rocket like nobody else that just cannot be taught, or a guy that can outrun everyone on the field, those guys, in my opinion, are guys that you just can't pass up on in today's NFL. So I just want you guys to take away 2 things from here, or at least what I'm taking away is, 1, Justin Herbert is fantastic. I hope he will have a long career with the Chargers. He has been great. And 2, teams cannot be afraid to chase ability in the draft, because those are things that cannot be taught, and those are the guys that are the future of the NFL and the guys that are winning Super Bowls today. And then I wanted to just transition into my second segment, which was about Lamar Jackson, who we just talked about a little bit, about, the freaky guy, because Lamar Jackson is that guy. He's the guy that was able to outrun everyone. He was able to juke out everyone on the field. And I just first wanted to say, what a game. Cleveland, Ravens, that was the game of the year. Just so many storylines. I mean, Lamar Jackson having his cramps, going and get an IV in the tunnel. Trace McSorley leading the Ravens for 2 drives. Baker Mayfield playing great. Lamar Jackson comes out and hits Hollywood, who dropped like every ball all game, for a touchdown. Justin Tucker, and then Browns come down and score. Justin Tucker hits a game-winning field goal. It just had everything. It was a fantastic football game. And Lamar Jackson was the superstar in this game. And I think, you know, it was really nice to see him finally block everything out, just put his head down and run when he needed to, not be worried about what other people thought, not be worried about running around being like, oh, you know, I need to pass. I can't just put it down and run, even though that's what he does. That was Lamar Jackson at his peak form. That was MVP Lamar Jackson. You know, Lamar Jackson isn't going to make every throw. I mean, he missed a couple of big throws down to Andrews and Snead, but that's okay. When you can make so many great plays, and obviously you would love to make those throws, but this is Lamar Jackson at his peak, when he hits a lot of the necessary throws and just puts his head down, runs, and does what he does best, beats everyone out on the field. And so it was just nice to see that happen in this game, and I think that was really, really good to see. We're seeing Lamar Jackson be comfortable again, be comfortable with himself, be like, okay, we're taking this development, this thing that the Ravens were trying to develop earlier in the season. I mean, if you noticed, there's several times when they got up against worse teams where they were just trying to force Lamar Jackson to be comfortable, drop back. And so in this game, Lamar Jackson was just kind of like, we'll push that to the offseason. I'm going to be me. I'm going to put the team on my back. And that's what he did. So great to see that. And I'm talking about this because I've campaigned for Lamar Jackson for, you know, this whole season. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL. I think he's a fantastic quarterback. And a couple of weeks ago, I told you that he was the most underappreciated quarterback in the NFL. I think at this point, a lot of people are waking up on him. I think a lot of people are recognizing how fantastic he is. He's you know, he's may not be as efficient as last year. The Ravens offense might not be as good as last year, but Lamar Jackson can still be magical. And I think a lot of people are realizing that. And then, you know, something that I want to revisit, I made a video earlier this year, was, you know, I said that Lamar Jackson is better than he was last year. And I also said that he is more valuable to the Ravens than he was last year. And, you know, what I'll say is Lamar Jackson might not necessarily be better than last year, because I do believe that there's some elements of his game that, you know, are not quite as good as they were last year. But coming with that, I think there's a lot of development that we've seen with Lamar Jackson, a lot of pieces of his game that have gotten better. They've gotten, you know, more refined. And I think most notably is his ability to throw on the run, extend a play, find a guy down the field, make a great play, which, you know, we saw it a couple times on Monday. He rolled out of a pocket that was collapsed, found Mark Andrews on a drive-saving play. Those are the types of things that he's been better at this year. You know, being able to roll out when the easy stuff isn't there and find Marquise Brown or Willie Snead or Mark Andrews outside the numbers. He's been better at that, extending a play and making something happen with it when the easy stuff isn't there. Throwing the ball, not just running the ball. We know he can do that. We know that he can extend a play running the ball, but throwing the ball, getting out of the pocket, chucking the ball downfield and making a big play. He did that with Marquise Brown. He did that with Mark Andrews this past week, and he's done that all season long. That is something that I have been very, very impressed with. And, you know, I'm not 100% sure if he's better, because as I said, some things he's missing a couple more throws than last year. And, you know, but again, there's some things that he's been better at this year. So I'm not 100% sure if he's better or not. But what I will say is I think that the development of the trait I just talked about, these traits that Lamar Jackson has developed, is going to help him greatly in the playoffs. I mean, that's one thing that we always talk about. That's one of our knocks on Lamar Jackson is, can he win in the playoffs? Can he win the big moment? Because, you know, I think it's really going to help him, this development of being able to roll out, extend a play. It's going to help him in the playoffs, because in the playoffs, that's when the easy stuff is in there. That's when Mark Andrews wide open in the middle of the field on 3rd and 6 is not there. That's when you got to drop back, make a play in the air on 3rd and 10 because the rushing game is just not working like you want it to. And and the pocket collapses, you got to find somebody. And that happens way more in the playoffs. That's what wins you games in the playoffs. Those big moments, those moments where the easy stuff isn't there, because teams in the playoffs aren't going to make it easy. Good teams aren't going to give you all the easy stuff. That's the reality of it. So you got to make plays when they're not there in the playoffs to win. And I think Lamar Jackson's in a spot where he's able to do that. So and then also, I still believe that he is more valuable to the Ravens. I mean, the Ravens' offense is top 15, borderline top 10 in the league. It's had its ups and downs, but the reason for that is literally because of Lamar Jackson. The reason that it is good, and it's even close to a top 10 offense, is because of Lamar Jackson. I mean, you got a ton of offensive line injuries. The interior offensive line is a mess. You've got weapons that have really, really struggled this year, and some play calling that's been questionable too. I mean, Lamar Jackson hasn't been the greatest this year, but if you take him off the Ravens, I think they are one of the worst offenses in the NFL right now. So I think Lamar Jackson, which I don't think there was the case last year, so I think Lamar Jackson is more valuable to this Ravens offense this year than he was last year. I think we've seen that all year. We're going to see it down the stretch of the season and potentially in the playoffs as well if they can make it there. So I just wanted to say that Lamar Jackson's great. He's more valuable to the Ravens than he was last year, and I think he's finally ready to lead the Ravens to some playoff success, which many of us, including me, have some questions about. Then I want to transition to another mobile quarterback, and that's Jalen Hurts, who, you know, he won over the Saints this past weekend. Very intriguing story as the Eagles announced that he would start over Carson Wentz. And, you know, it raised a lot of questions. What was going on with the Eagles? Was Carson Wentz going to be benched for good? Is he gone from the Eagles? Is he done? Where is he going to land next year? If he's done with the Eagles, what is his future? And then, like, I think the main question is, what Carson Wentz are we going to get? Are we going to get the 2017 MVP Wentz or the 2020 turnover-prone, sloppy Wentz? And so there's a ton of questions raised with that. But I just want to say, Jalen Hurts played great in that Saints game. He stepped in there. Wasn't sure if he was going to have to play. They announced that he was going to be the starter against this very good Saints defense. He stepped in there, rallied his team around him, made a lot of very solid plays, especially with his legs. He made the throws that he needed to make, and he looked good. He looked good. And I got to give him a lot of credit for that. So, you know, when he potentially saved the Eagles season, I think Washington will end up winning the NFC East, but the Eagles aren't out of it. If they can go on a couple wins, you know, Washington's got a tough game against Seattle this week. If they lose a couple times and the Eagles go on a little bit of streak, they can make the playoffs. So we potentially saved the season there for the Eagles. But my takeaway from that game was that Jalen Hurts is the future for the Eagles. He's the future for the Eagles. I think he should be. And first of all, I just talked about it. I've been impressed by Hurts. The way he came in there, made a bunch of big plays. It was very impressive to me. And, you know, I think the future of this league, you know, the guys that can extend plays, the guys that make plays that aren't there, the guys that are special in a category, Jalen Hurts, he fits the future of the league. He can be a special player. I mean, what he can do with his legs. You know, he might not be Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray, but he is very, very athletic. He is a very mobile quarterback, extends plays, and, you know, that might be figured out a little bit. But what I saw with his arm was enough to the point where I was like, this guy can have some success. And we talked about it earlier. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, these things develop too. You don't just year one, that's your ceiling as a passer. I mean, Lamar Jackson's going to get better as a passer. Josh Allen can continue to get better as a passer. And Jalen Hurts can too. So he's a rookie. He's already making plays with his legs. He's already making a lot of good throws. You give him time to develop, and I think Jalen Hurts can be a special player in the league where he fits where the quarterback trend is going, because he can make a ton of plays out of the system that aren't there. He can fit anywhere. You know, I think Jalen Hurts can be a very, very special player. That's first of all. Second of all, there's an issue with Carson Wentz, and I'm not just talking about his play, and I think this has been highlighted over the past couple of years. It's his leadership. I mean, we know the Eagles won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles, and we were like, oh, maybe that's just a one-year thing and stuff like that, but it felt like Nick Foles was able to kind of rally the Eagles more than Carson Wentz was, get his teammates behind him more than Carson Wentz ever had him. And it happened the year after with Nick Foles again, came in and kind of bailed him out again. Then the Eagles come in the next year, and I mean, Carson Wentz is fine, but then we get this year where Jalen Hurts comes in and rallies the Eagles, gets the supporting cast to support him more than we've seen all year long. It's kind of just strange how the coaching feels better, the entire team plays better, the defense plays better, the offense plays better. And you wonder, is it just the motivation of like having a guy in there that isn't used to it? But I think there's definitely something to consider because Carson Wentz, he's had some issues as a leader. So very interesting to see there. And then third, I think the 2017 Wentz is the Wentz I think that not the 2017 Wentz, the 2020 sloppy Wentz is the Wentz that we see going forward. I think the 2018 season Wentz, I think that's behind us. I don't think we're going to see it again. I mean, his passing yards have gone down. His completion percentage has gone down. His interceptions have gone up. And he's in his 5th year as a quarterback. If it isn't the end of his career, this 5th year, these 4 or 5 years, this is when you should be improving. This is when you should be getting better, not getting worse, because, that's literally the opposite of what you want to see. I mean, we're seeing other quarterbacks make strides forward in their 3rd, 4th, 5th years in terms of accuracy and decision-making, and Carson Wentz is literally doing the opposite of that, and that's just not what you can do. And then another interesting thing I heard about Carson Wentz is during his 2017-2018 run, he was, average to below average on 1st and 2nd downs. And on the 3rd downs was ridiculous. Like very, very, ridiculously good. Off the charts good. And, I mean, 1st and 2nd downs aren't sustainable. I mean, 1st and 2nd downs are what are sustainable. I mean, 3rd downs, they vary. I mean, Wentz is back down. I mean, the 3rd down percentage for Wentz has come back down to earth. The 1st and 2nd downs have maybe gone down a little bit, but I just think that from here on out, we're going to see 2020 Carson Wentz, sloppy, turnover prone. Maybe not this bad because it's pretty hard to be this bad, but I just think that Wentz, we haven't seen him getting any better. I mean, we keep thinking, oh, is he going to turn around? He hasn't. He's, there were some outliers in that MVP year, and Hurts is just better. He's better. I trust Hurts more. He fits the NFL. He can be a special player, and Wentz is not a better option going forward. So we'll see what the Eagles do, but in my opinion, they should stay with Jalen Hurts as their quarterback because Carson Wentz is not their future. So we'll see what they do this week, the week following, but definitely something to look out for. And that's my take on Jalen Hurts. And then I wanted to talk about another quarterback. I know we're talking about a lot of quarterbacks here, but this is the other quarterback that played on Monday Night Football. We talked about Lamar Jackson already. Now we're talking about Baker Mayfield. And, I've been wrong on Baker. I've been wrong. He can be the future for Cleveland, in my opinion. He has proved me wrong. He has been fantastic. Just done so many really, really good things. I made a video on why Baker was the problem in Cleveland about a couple months ago when the Browns were 4-2. They had gotten blown out by the Ravens and the Steelers, and I just wasn't sold on Baker. And I just want to apologize for that. Baker's looked fantastic. The arm talent, just being able to make a ton of throws on the run, down the field has been fantastic from Baker Mayfield. He has shown off his arm strength. He threw a 70-yard pass in the air the other day, and that was just special. Like, he has shown his arm strength. He's shown his arm talent. Better decision-making. Obviously, he threw an interception that game, but for the rest of it, he was almost flawless in terms of the decisions that he was making. And accuracy. He's been very, very accurate. Very accurate. Baker has been very sharp this year, and I give him a lot of credit for that. So, I think one thing that I've learned here is, in the NFL, I mean, these guys that go first overall to bad organizations like the Browns or, the Jets this year, or maybe the Jaguars, we'll see. They have a lot of pressure to be great and to be great quickly because, next year there's a guy that can replace you. But I think a lot of those guys that, are taken first overall aren't given a fair chance because, I mean, you're taken into a terrible organization, which most likely doesn't have a lot of talent. It's an absolute mess. You won't have anything to work with there. And then you are rushed out because the team doesn't get any better and they wonder why. Well, it's because one, you need to develop, and two, there's literally nothing there. I mean, Baker Mayfield, how can he be great when as I said, his organization's a mess? He has to go through 4 coaches in like 18 months. He never has anyone to just settle with and learn and grow. And, for a couple of years, he didn't have an offensive line. And I just don't think anyone can overcome those circumstances. And that's something that I'm realizing more and more now. So you give him that coach, Kevin Stefanski now, you give him an offensive line, and look what happens. He grows, he gets better. He can be the future of the Browns. And, I don't think Baker's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I don't think he is like so overwhelmingly talented that, he is just the greatest thing ever. But I think given the time, now he's got a coach, he's got the talent around him, he's got a running game, and he puts up a ton of points. He has been better decision-making. He's developed in a lot of areas. He's developed as a person, as a character. And so I think a lot of these first-round picks need more time. They need more time, and I get there's that rush to be special. You want Patrick Mahomes to just appear on the scene out of nowhere and just be the greatest talent ever seen. But that's not how it always works. You got to be a little more patient. You got to recognize the circumstance that they're in and not bail on guys like Baker Mayfield who were taken first overall. You took them first for a reason because you got to recognize what's going on around them. They haven't had a coach. They haven't had stability where they landed. And so when you give them that, they will be just fine. So, also one thing to say is Odell is the problem in Cleveland. And, he makes the offense worse. We've seen it, like literally. I don't think you can argue that this offense has been worse without Odell. And then he makes Baker worse. I think a lot of that has to do with, he's sticking on his first read and Odell just isn't getting open. Now Baker's moving through his reads better and really everything. He just makes Baker worse because he has that number 1 guy, and he just makes the team worse. I don't like his, I don't think his personality is needed in Cleveland. I don't think he makes Baker any better, and I just think he makes the team worse overall. So, I still think that Odell deserves a spot somewhere. He is very talented, and I think if you get him in the right place with the right quarterback, in the right system, he will be phenomenal. But he just doesn't work in Cleveland, and I think people are starting to realize that. So this segment, I just wanted to apologize because I wrote Baker off too soon. I hope to continue to see Baker ball out, develop in Cleveland. I think he has a bright future ahead of him. And, he's talented. He should be playing somewhere, he's very, very talented. And he is finally earning those progressive commercials that everyone has been making fun of him for a very long time. But hats off to Baker Mayfield. You're doing a fantastic job. Keep it up. Then this one's a little different. This segment is a little bit different. And I thought it was a good segue from the Baker Mayfield topic. And it's, just a quick one. And it's that culture matters in the NFL. And a couple weeks ago, I had a little thought, a little spark in my mind, like how important culture is. Because I was looking at the NFL and, the Browns and Baker are a perfect example. just the teams that are changing, the teams that are getting better, the teams that have bright futures found their guy. They found their culture. The Browns are a perfect example. I mean, you have Baker Mayfield. You have a ton of talent. Last year, underachieving. You have a great offensive line. You have Odell. You have Jarvis Landry. You've got all these guys. But you got Freddie Kitchens as your coach. Childish. Baker Mayfield is acting childish because he just can't get settled in Cleveland. And then you bring in Kevin Stefanski, and he changes everything. I mean, he comes in, sets the record straight on what's going to happen. He's a good coach. He makes you work hard, and he's no nonsense. And look at what happens. Cleveland's able to get what they want out of their talent. They're 9-4 right now. They're having a fantastic season. So that's a perfect example. And you need talent and culture. You can't do it without both to win a championship. You know, it's evident in today's NFL. I mean, you got Anthony Lynn in the Chargers, very talented roster, but like nothing is happening with the team because Anthony Lynn can't get things going. It's just a losing culture right now. It was an example with Cleveland last year with Freddie Kitchens, very talented roster, just can't put it together. And then, you know, then you have the opposite with Bill Belichick right now. Very good coach, but just doesn't have the talent to work with. And so they're going to miss the playoffs because of it. So you need both. You need talent and culture. You can't just pass with talent in the NFL. And I think, you know, there's countless franchises right now that are turning things in a 180 direction because of culture and coaching. And this is what made me have a spark. I mean, you look at the teams that were bad last year and are turning things around and have bright futures. Miami, New York, Washington. They got rid of their old guys. They had to find their guy, but they've done it. Miami, they brought in Brian Flores. Last year, they were a joke, tank for Tua. Brian Flores turns things around, goes 4-4 in the last 8 games of the season. They were playing for something. They didn't just give up. They weren't just giving up and wanting the first pick. They won 4 games. And they had a winning culture. They didn't give up. And that was huge. They got their guy in Tua. This year, they're in the playoffs right now. We will see if they make it. But that's because of Brian Flores. And obviously, there's some talent. But the defense has been fantastic because of Brian Flores. Along with, you know, he's made the most out of his talent. And the offense has been good. The defense has been good. The culture is winning. And that's why Miami is going to compete, and they're only going to get better and better and better. They've got a lot of young talent. They are a team that nobody wants to mess with in the AFC for years to come. So, one example. Second example, New York. Joe Judge comes in there, turns the defense completely around. This is a defense that I was expecting to be maybe 29th, 30th in the NFL. And they're debatably a top 10, 15 defense in the league right now. They have been great. I mean, obviously, you get some players like James Bradbury developing on the defense, but you take a group of guys who is, you know, there's some talent here and there. Maybe, you know, there's some positions that need a lot of work, but you bring them together, you create a winning culture, and they perform. Washington. Ron Rivera comes in there, and look at what the defense is doing. They've been dominant. They drafted Chase Young. They've been fantastic. He gets his guy, you know, Alex Smith, Kyle Allen, does enough with this offense, and the talent isn't quite there, but you can tell that these teams are headed in the right direction because they got their guy, their coach, whether it be Brian Flores, Joe Judge, or Ron Rivera. And sometimes you just need to stick with it. You know, you can't just be bouncing around coaches because that just doesn't work. And, you know, just another example of this is the Patriots dominated on the backs of a winning culture, great coaching for years. They did the little things right. They worked hard. You know, they didn't make mistakes. They were not always the most talented, but they won games more than anyone else. So they dominated for 2 decades on the backs of a winning culture. Miami, New York, Washington, the Browns have all turned things around and are in the process of turning things around right now because of culture, because of coaching. It just shows how important coaching is in the NFL. They are a huge piece of a team's success, and you really can't win without it. So I just wanted to say that really quick. It popped in my head a few weeks ago. Just how important culture can be in the NFL, and we're just seeing it around the league right now. And next, we're gonna be shifting away from quarterbacks, and we're gonna be doing some rankings. I've got 3 segments for you guys. I got ranking AFC teams, ranking NFC teams, based on how likely I think they are to win the Super Bowl. And then my best for last, I will do this on every one of these episodes. I'm gonna be redrafting the 2018 QB class. The 5 guys, you know, we all know them: Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, and Josh Rosen. I'm going to be redrafting them. Who's going to go first? Who's going to go second? Who's going to go third? We might have a couple surprises in there, so get ready for that. But let's start with ranking my AFC teams. By how likely they're going to be to win the Super Bowl. And I think, should I start from the bottom or the top? I will start at the top. Number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think anyone is going to doubt or question me on that, except for Colin Cowherd. He's got the Bills as the best team in the league. But the Chiefs, in my opinion, are the clear number 1. They're the team to beat, and I don't think I have too much to say. You got Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill. It's going to be very difficult. You dig them. They dig in, you know, when they're down 10, 20 points, they'll just climb right back into it. We saw that against Miami this past week, which is against a good defense, a defense that is very solid. They get down early, they just climb back into it. And that's what makes the Chiefs so dangerous. Obviously, you got Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, one of the best quarterback and coach duos in the league, probably the best. And then number 2, I've got the Buffalo Bills. And the Bills have really surprised me this year. I was a, I guess you could say, Bills hater going into the year. I doubted Josh Allen. I doubted what he could do. He just hadn't shown the accuracy. But I have been proven wrong. I'm happy that I have been proven wrong. I think, you know, I am happy that Josh Allen is having the success that he is having with the Bills this season, because, you know, it goes back to the thing that I was talking about earlier. Talent matters in the NFL. You need to not be afraid of taking the raw prospect. And Josh Allen is a perfect example of that. He is the raw prospect. It is working out for the Bills right now, and he makes them Super Bowl contenders. Stephon Diggs, this offense is fantastic. They're getting Tre'Davious White back, and how much that helps in the secondary cannot be understated. This defense struggled at points this year, but if the defense really comes together like it was looking like it was last year, and the offense plays at the level it is this year, they are a scary, scary team. I would love to see a matchup between them and the Chiefs in the AFC. So number 1, Chiefs, number 2, Bills, and my number 3 team is the Baltimore Ravens. And I talked about them a little bit earlier. You know, it's crazy because right now they're not even in the playoff picture. They've had a little bit of a letdown of a season for a lot of people. They lost a lot of those big games, but I think part of that, I mean, if we look back at a season ago, those things that, you know, those little, you know, I definitely think they're not quite as good of a team as last year, but some of the things that went their way last year haven't quite gone their way. I mean, you have to have some things go your way to go 14-2, and some of those things that went their way last year have not gone their way this year. They've lost a couple of close games, had some bad weather games, and, you know, that's just how it happens. I think the Ravens will get into the playoffs, and they're a team that I would not want to see, because I think if the Ravens defense comes together, which we've seen several times this year, holding the Colts to 10 points, I think it's good that they get an easy schedule here at the end. They can rest up some guys that need resting. I mean, they got a lot of injuries at cornerback right now, and that was really hurting them in that game against the Browns. Obviously, when they're healthy, they're one of the best secondaries in the league. You know, they got, Calais Campbell has not been fantastic, but they've got a lot of young guys, Justin Madubuike, and they've been getting some pressure here and there. But the offense is turning things around. It's looking like last year's offense. They're getting the ball moving on the ground. J.K. Dobbins has looked great. Gus Edwards. And Lamar Jackson, as we talked about earlier, he's returning to MVP form. So I would not want to face the Ravens. I think they're a team that can get hot. They have their backs up against the wall. I think they are a team that is going to be very scary, and I would not be surprised if we saw them in the AFC Championship game. They do have a bad matchup with the Chiefs, but we'll see. You never know. So the Ravens are my third best team. Fourth best team is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Steelers are a very confusing team for me because I made a video a couple of weeks ago about why they're a Super Bowl team, and I was very sure about it. But then they just go out and lose to Washington in the way that they did, and go out and lose to Buffalo in the way that they did. And it has me start questioning, how good really is this team? Can they win a Super Bowl actually? And, you know, I do believe they can win a Super Bowl. As I said in my contender pretender video, I think they're a good enough team to win a Super Bowl, but they need to fix some things. They need to get the ball moving on the ground better. We've seen them do it at some points this year, but they've really, really struggled as of late to get these things done on the ground, which you need. You need to be able to run the ball to win a Super Bowl. You can't just be a passing attack because Big Ben isn't Patrick Mahomes. You know, the Chiefs can kind of get away with it a little bit because they have so many weapons, but the Steelers offense, they're dropping balls. They can't get the ball moving on the ground. And I think Big Ben is good, but he's good when you give him enough around him to succeed because he can't make a ton of plays out of the system. And then the defense, they can get pressure on the quarterback. But the secondary's got to step things up a little bit. I do think it's still a very good team. You know, if they just clean up a couple of things, they will be one of the best teams in the league, no doubt. And, you know, a team that is definitely still in contention to win a Super Bowl. So they're my fourth team. Number 5, the Colts. And I talked about this a little bit in my contender pretender video. And I said they were contenders because I think we looked at the start of the year, and I was thinking, okay, this Colts team has some potential. They definitely have a defense. They got DeForest Buckner. They have a lot going for them on the defensive end of things. And they've got a very good offensive line. They've got some pieces on offense. They got, you know, Michael Pittman in the draft. They have T.Y. Hilton and some other guys on their offense that definitely are talented, can make a lot of things happen. The X factor was Phillip Rivers. Can he perform? And I said at the start of the year, if Phillip Rivers can perform for the Colts, this team is, in fact, a team that can win a Super Bowl. And he's performing. He just came off one of the best, you know, games that he's played all year. And he's been very successful this season in this Colts offense. Michael Pittman's developing a connection with him. They're getting the ball moving on the ground with Jonathan Taylor recently. So this offense is better than I was expecting. This defense is still a top 10 caliber defense right now. Very good at stopping the run, and they have some playmakers on the back end. So I like the Colts quite a bit. I think they're a team that nobody wants to see. They're number 5. Number 6, the Titans. And I said they were pretenders because I think that I just don't see them winning 4 games in the AFC. Now, I do think that when they do everything right, they are a hard team to beat. And that is very, very true. But I just don't think that they can get it done with this defense right now. They're struggling to get pressure. They're struggling in coverage. They have one of the bottom 10, bottom 5 maybe coverage unit in the league right now. Probably not bottom 5, bottom 10 coverage unit in the league right now. And they can't get pressure on the quarterback. So I just don't think that they can get by with that defense. And yes, the offense is great, but I don't think Ryan Tannehill and their style of play, running the ball so much, is going to get them super far in the playoffs. We will see. You know, we saw them get to the AFC Championship game last year, but yeah, Titans at 6, Browns at 7. I said they were contenders. I've kind of changed my mind on that because, thank you to my friend Evan for bringing this up, that their defense is worse than you'd expect. If you take out the weather games where, you know, it was just windy, like crazy and rainy and stuff like that, where the defense only let up 7 points because, well, it wasn't the defense, it was just Mother Nature only letting up 7 points. The defense is allowing over 30 points per game and allowing 390 yards per game, which is very, very bad. So this Browns defense is worse than you'd expect. Myles Garrett cannot do everything for them. I do think they will get healthier in the secondary, and they're a dangerous team on offense with Baker playing the way he's playing, Kevin Stefanski play calling as well as he has, and you know, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt having as much success on the ground as they have. But right now, I just don't see them competing with their defense being as poor as it is. And then number 8, the Dolphins. I think this team is still 1 year away. Give them another year. They're going to have a good draft pick. They're going to get a couple guys in the first round. Tua will develop a little bit more. He's been good, not great. So, you know, I think 1 more year for the Dolphins. I still think they could maybe win one playoff game. If they end up with the 7th seed, Steelers end up with the 2nd seed, I can definitely see them winning that game. And we'll see, but that's very intriguing. But I just think this Dolphins team is 1 year away. Their defense has been great, but they'll draft a couple guys. A couple guys will develop. A couple of their young guys who are on their defensive line and their offense as well. They will get another weapon, some more weapons for Tua. This team's 1 year away, but still a team that I thought I'd mention because they are interesting. They can definitely win a game or maybe go on a run. I don't see it, but I can see them, you know, maybe upsetting someone in the playoffs in the AFC. And then on to the NFC teams. And number 1 was a tough decision for me. I was debating between a few teams because I could see any of these teams here. I think number 1, I'm taking the Packers. And I understand that their defense has not been elite this year, not been fantastic, but they still can get pressure on the quarterback. They have an elite shutdown corner in Jair Alexander, and at times they do play some solid football. So I like the Packers because of their offense, though. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, he's done it time after time. He did it last year, took him to the NFC Championship game, and he's better than he was last year. He's playing better. He's looking like a vintage Aaron Rodgers, the Aaron Rodgers that won them a Super Bowl. He is playing fantastic football right now. You combine him with Devontae Adams, who's having a fantastic year. Aaron Jones being able to move the ball on the ground like he has been doing. Matt LaFleur, who's been a solid coach this year for the Packers. This offense is scary. One of the best offenses in the NFL. I would probably say 2nd behind Kansas City. And, you know, I think the defense is formidable. So I like the Packers quite a bit. I think they're going to be tough to beat because of Aaron Rodgers and their explosiveness on offense is going to be very hard to slow down. So yeah, I think the Packers are number 1. And then number 2, I debated about a little bit, quite a bit as well. And I was debating between the Saints and the team we're going to be talking about next. But I took the Saints at number 2. You know, this was a team that at the start of the year, if you remember, if you've been a long-time subscriber, I said should be the Super Bowl favorites, and they were my pick to win the Super Bowl, actually. Or no, they were not my pick to win the Super Bowl, but I said they should be Super Bowl favorites. It was a take that I thought, you know, just so much talent on that roster. I think they are a fantastic team, and I've been right. I think it was a little concerning after the first 3 weeks of the season. They were 1-2 and then barely beat the Lions, but their defense is very much came together. Their front seven is looking good. Their secondary is pulling things together. So because of that, their defense is looking like one of the best in the league right now, and that's huge. And then on offense, they're going to get Drew Brees back. We'll see what he looks like after coming off injury. But you know, Michael Thomas, Jared Cook, Alvin Kamara, a very good offensive line, Drew Brees. This offense can get it done. This defense can get it done. I like this team quite a bit. Now, there are some questions. Can they get it done in the playoffs? Can they win in the playoffs? And I think they can. I definitely think they can. I think the lack of a deep threat, lack of really a deep passing game beyond 20 yards is going to hurt them in the playoffs, especially when you need to put up, you need those couple of easy breaks against maybe the Packers or the Seahawks, where those teams can get those easy 80-yard touchdowns with DK Metcalf and Marquez Valdes-Scantling with Aaron Rodgers. So I think that could come back to bite them, but it's just a very talented team all around, and they're the 2nd best team in the NFC. 3rd best team in the NFC is the Rams. I think I really liked the Rams all year long. This defense is the best in the NFL, in my opinion. The offense is versatile. I think it's got some it's got some shakiness. I don't think Jared Goff is the quarterback that I would choose to lead me to Super Bowl, but he's done it in the past. Sean McVay and Jared Goff are a good duo. If they can get the ball moving on the ground, they are very dangerous. Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, they got a lot of weapons. I think this offense is built right and well enough that they can put together a solid stretch with this defense holding teams to like 20, 23 points. This offense puts up 27. I think this team is a team that I would not want to see. I think they match up well with like the Saints, for example. So we will see. But I think Rams are third best. And the fourth best team is the Buccaneers. And I think the Buccaneers are a team that if they put things together, which I think they certainly can, they are arguably the second best team in the league. They have not put things together yet. That's why they're not the second best team in the league. But I think they're an intriguing team. I said that they're pretenders. I don't think they can win I don't think they can win the Super Bowl. But I think there is a chance. There is a slim chance that they get things together, and they are a team that nobody wants to mess with because Tom Brady in the playoffs won. He's been fantastic. And my one hesitancy on that, though, is there's been moments this year where he needs to step up in the Saints game. These are games that they need to step up. They're almost like playoff games in a way. And he hasn't done it. He hasn't showed up. He hasn't showed up on the drive they need to win the game. That's what Brady's done all his career. So that's one thing to look out for. But the defense is great. A lot of talent on that defense. Their front seven gets a lot of pressure. They're solid in the secondary. They've improved greatly from last year. I think this ultimately boils down to, can Brady fix some of the things that he's been struggling with? And can Bruce Arians get things together with Tom Brady? And can this offense get back on track? But I think the Buccaneers are a dangerous team, so I've got them here at 4. And then 5, another dangerous team, the Seattle Seahawks. I think these are the top 5 teams easily. The Seahawks are dangerous because of Russell Wilson. I think that they might be a little too reliant on Russell Wilson at times, but that's okay. Russell Wilson is a guy that I want to rely on. He's the 4th best quarterback in the league, in my opinion. But the defense, the secondary really struggles. Arguably the worst in the NFL. They haven't gotten too much pressure. I know Jamal Adams has been good. Carlos Dunlap has been a good addition, but still not a team that's just going to be game-wrecking in terms of pass rush. And then, you know, so I think this offense is good enough to win a Super Bowl. I don't know if this defense is going to be good enough to win a Super Bowl when you're facing teams like the Packers and the Chiefs and the Bills and the Saints that are going to want to pass all over you. So I think that's something to definitely look out for. And this offense has been up and down too this year. But I think this team is still a scary team, a dangerous team. They can beat anyone because of Russell Wilson. If things are clicking, they're as good as any team. So I like the Seahawks. They're here at number 5. Number 6, the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are a little bit away. I just don't think, you know, I think 6 and 7 to me are just kind of like, you know, these teams are probably going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to be competitive. But the Cardinals are a team that I think, you know, they can beat anyone. As I said with the Seahawks, they beat the Seahawks. You know, if Kyler Murray is clicking, if Kyler Murray has a good game, if he can run, if he is hitting his throws, which he can do and he's done several times this year, I think this Cardinals offense is one that nobody wants to see, especially when they can get the ball moving. But defenses have kind of started to figure things out with this Cardinals offense. You know, teams that get a lot of pressure, like the Saints and the Rams, are going to be able to handle Kyler Murray. So I just don't think there's a lot of good matchups here for the Cardinals. And I think the defense is a year away. I think Kyler Murray is a year away. I think this offense is a year away. But they will make the playoffs. Still a team that can beat anyone. So they're number 6. And then number 7 is the Vikings. I'm not going to say too much about them. It'll be interesting to see what they do with their future. What are they going to do with Kirk Cousins? I was hoping for more from the Vikings this year. I think they're a team that's just going to potentially slip into the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't make it, but I do think they're the 7th best team in the NFC. And, you know, unfortunately, they won't make it because Washington will end up making it for the NFC East. Okay, well, we are 55 minutes into the podcast, and it is time for my best for last. I'm going to be ranking or redrafting the 2018 quarterback class. So yeah, we know the 5 guys, right? And number 5, the guy that I would least want, the guy that I'm taking last in the draft, I'm going from worst to best here, is Josh Rosen. I don't think anyone's going to debate that. He is, I mean, he's just been a complete bust. He's really struggled with accuracy. He's struggled with decision-making his whole career, and there's a reason he's not playing. And then number 4, I'm taking Sam Darnold. And, you know, it's so unfortunate that Sam Darnold had to deal with what he's had to deal with in New York, but I still can't give him a pass on a lot of things that have gone wrong with Sam Darnold. Occasionally he makes a play where you're like, this guy could be great, this guy could be special, but too often he makes too many plays that you're just like, why on earth would you make that play? Struggles with accuracy at some points, and I think Sam Darnold, unfortunately, is never going to hit what we thought he was going to be coming out of the draft. So he is the guy that I would take second last. And then 3, Baker Mayfield. And we talked about him a little bit earlier. I think Baker is fantastic. I think he's developed. And you know, unfortunately, the opposite of Sam Darnold, he's been given the pieces around him. And I know that doesn't matter about the quarterback, but it allows him to develop. And he's shown development. He's gotten better in a lot of areas. His accuracy's gotten better. His decision-making's gotten better. He's showcasing his arm talent and his arm strength. He's returning to the, you know, he is right now looking like a guy that, you know, he's looking like a guy that can be a franchise quarterback. So Baker Mayfield is here at 3. I'm excited to see what he could continue to do in Cleveland. He's a very exciting prospect. We'll see. I would take him 3rd. Second, and this is the tough one, is it Josh Allen or is it Lamar Jackson? I'm taking Lamar Jackson, and I think Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen are very close to how good they are right now. But I will take Lamar Jackson second because, you know, I think there are some concerns. Can he win in the playoffs? How sustainable is his style of play? Will he get injured? Those are all definitely valid questions. But I do think he is fantastic. I mean, he's won an MVP already. He's 25, or not even 25. I think he's 23, 24. He is very young. Got a long career ahead of him, hopefully. You know, he's done things that nobody has thought no one has thought that he, you know, could ever do them. And he's developed accuracy, he's developed good decision-making. So Lamar Jackson has been fantastic, and I talked about him earlier. I think he's great. But my number 1 guy, I think, is the number 1, barely, but I'm taking Josh Allen first. He is a guy that I think I can envision having a career that is just stellar. He's only going to get better. He's young, and he's already fantastic. I think he's got a little bit more of a sustainable style of play. You know, I don't necessarily think it's a better way to play, but with age, he's not going to, you know, Lamar Jackson will slow down eventually. Well, we think. Josh Allen, his arm isn't going to deteriorate by the time he's 30. And, you know, he's only going to get better. His mechanics are looking better. His arm strength is one of the best we've ever seen. He can make a ton of throws. There's a couple of things I'd still like to see development from Josh Allen, but that's Lamar Jackson, that's Baker Mayfield, that's Sam Darnold, that's Josh Rosen. All of them have some things they could work on, but Josh Allen, I think, will have the best career and will be suited well in this Buffalo offense for a long time. So I'm taking first overall, Josh Allen, second overall, Lamar Jackson, third overall, Baker Mayfield, fourth, Sam Darnold, and fifth, Josh Rosen. So that is my best for last, redrafting the 2018 quarterback class. So yeah, that was the podcast. If you listened all the way, I really appreciate it. Or maybe if you just came by to watch the best for last, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to any of these topics. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'll maybe do 1 or 2 of these per week. Let me know what you thought of the video down below. So yeah, thank you guys for listening. And until next time, peace.